What up, everybody? It's Frank Muller back at it again with another video today. You're watching Level Up, Double Down, where we don't play around unless it's video games. Happy New Year's to everybody, and I hope you guys had a happy holidays. Now, if you like the type of content I make and you want to see more, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I hope I can earn your support today. So with that out the way, let's go ahead and get things started. Now, to give a little background, I've watched numerous review videos from those who happen to receive a review unit of the Analogue 3D, some of the who's who in the retro gaming space on YouTube. I also watched a few review videos from those whose Analogue 3D pre-orders were delivered. However, I didn't pre-order an Analogue 3D, so it got me to thinking, what if I built my own instead? So in today's episode, I'll be setting up a Raspberry Pi 5 for a consoleized TV experience, since Analogue didn't sponsor my video, nor did they send me a review unit. Those inconsiderate bastards. I'm still trying to figure out which person at Analogue do I have to hang over a balcony in order to get myself a review unit, because if Debo, RIP to Tiny Lister, was able to bully somebody into giving him their bike and their grandma's chain, then I guess that's worth a shot to get myself an Analogue 3D. I kid. Now, to add insult to injury, Analogue had the audacity to release a lineup of Analogue 3Ds in a variety of different colorways shortly after launch, which they call fantastic, which I would consider a slap in the face if I were to pre-order the original version of the 3D, especially since it took as long as it did for Analogue to deliver the 3D after all those delays. Now, the reason why I opted out of purchasing myself an Analogue 3D was because it didn't offer any of the quality of life features I've grown accustomed to from software emulation after all these years, including but not limited to save states, being able to fast forward through gameplay, for example, unskippable cutscenes, and enhanced texture upscaling. What I mean by that is this: the Analogue 3D is incapable of upscaling the graphics of a game. Being that the Analogue 3D uses pixels to render the image compared to rendering polygons, which is inherent to software emulation, and because the 3D only upscales the pixels, the image can look pretty jarring in my opinion. However, that is not the case for software emulation. Matter of fact, software emulation hasn't looked this good. Not to slight anyone who prefers to play their N64 games on original hardware, since I currently own one myself. However, for me, I prefer high frame rates and better texture quality at higher resolutions, which all can be done through software emulation, and that is my current stance, and I doubt anybody can change my mind. Another plus to software emulation is that you don't have to deal with any region lock shit when compared to using the console, unless you decide to mod it, although I do understand that the Analogue 3D isn't victim to that. With software emulation, a lot of the heavy lifting has been done for you regarding the stylization and digital quality of games being presented on display, offering cleaner, smoother textures at higher resolutions compared to the original hardware. There are some original hardware purists out there who will overlook all the quality of life features I just mentioned and refuse to acknowledge software emulation as a viable alternative to original hardware, all because certain aspects of a game being emulated may not appear accurate, or the game being emulated may exhibit some artifacting or momentarily glitch out. However, I've never found these issues to be a deal breaker, and I actually don't mind there being errors, since most of the time they don't interfere with gameplay. When I originally put together this Raspberry Pi, I opted to flash Android TV on it rather than using some distro like Battlesera or RetroPie, because from my experience, the issue you run into when you want to add games or files to it is that you have to refer to using FTP software, aka File Transfer Protocol software, such as FileZilla or WinSCP, in order to transfer any files, which could be complicated for the average person. Not speaking for myself, of course. But in my use case, since it's Android TV, I can easily grab a USB stick I have handy and store a whole bunch of files from my PC that I want to transfer over, then connect that USB stick to the actual Raspberry Pi 5, followed by copying its contents over with the use of a file manager app on Android. And since Android TV OS operates similarly to what you can expect from a smartphone, my experience isn't just limited to N64 gameplay. I can also install other APKs, which are Android apps, whether that be games, emulators, video streaming apps, etc., etc., ultimately turning my 4K retro box into an all-around TV media center for streaming content, web browsing, and even gaming. Speaking of gaming, when you take into account the amount of time it takes to boot into the Analogue 3D's OS, for me to run N64 gameplay through software emulation sounds a whole lot more appealing due to there being barely any wait times. So what are your thoughts about software emulation, and do you prefer over FPGAs for its overall accessibility, cost effectiveness, practicality, and ease of use? Or are you in favor of FPGAs due to their overall accuracy and convenience that they offer by allowing you to use original hardware accessories and game cartridges? Let me know in the comments below. Now back to the topic at hand. So, feast your eyes on my 4K retro box. What you're looking at right here is a Raspberry Pi 5 with 8 GB of RAM, and it's sporting a 1TB PCIe 3 NVMe SSD as storage, which is plenty of ample space for an Android box to install all the applications you can think of. Hell, even 512 GB would be considered plenty of space as well. As you can see, I still have a whole nother Raspberry Pi 5 kit that I can still put together. However, that's the 4 GB variant alongside 512 GB of NVMe SSD. So, what Linux distro, a custom firmware compatible with Raspberry Pi 5 should I flash on this board, or what next project do you think I should do with this board? Let me know in the comments below. If any of you guys are interested in putting one of these together for yourself, I'll be posting links to all the parts and accessories that were purchased and the resources I used to complete this project down below in the video description. Keep in mind, it was a while back when I purchased some of these items from AliExpress, as in 2 or more years ago, and I just got around to actually tinkering around with them. However, some of the sellers have shut down their original storefront since then, so I'll be referring you to the next best affordable option in regards to those items as an alternative. Also, remember to steer clear away from cheap 5-volt power adapters. I made the mistake of thinking I could bum off the same power adapter that included an on and off switch, which I had been using previously with my Raspberry Pi 4, only to encounter intermittent blackouts on screen. Until that moment, my Raspberry Pi 5 decided it wasn't enough ongoing power to run it, forcing me to use a Samsung power brick, which provided more than enough amperage for it to function properly.
Problema informal.
Hi there, I'm Heatsink. Okay.
Unfortunately, I was unable to pair my 8-bit DO N64 Bluetooth controller with an Android, which would have been the cherry on top to bring about a modern day wireless gameplay experience. But by using a USB-C to USB-A cable that comes bundled with the controller to connect the controller directly to the Raspberry Pi 5, the controller was capable of navigating through the OS as well as individual applications. However, there's no need to worry since you're still able to connect mainstream gaming controllers such as the Xbox Series and DualSense controllers via Bluetooth, and they function wirelessly without any issue. Even though I was forced to be tethered to the Raspberry Pi 5 while using an 8-bit DO N64 Bluetooth controller to play N64 games, it was a smooth gameplay experience from what I gathered. However, one drawback I need to mention that I consider a deal breaker when using the 8-bit DO N64 controller is that current emulators on Android acclimate more towards modern day controllers, and as a result, they will automatically populate the button configuration according to the original N64 controller without giving the user the option to remap those buttons individually for themselves. The emulators on Android were designed to function with more buttons in mind, so being that the N64 controller is missing a few buttons, aside from racing games, games with a more complicated gameplay loop like fighting games that require complex button combinations will become unplayable using the 8-bit DO N64 controller, so you'll probably want to keep a modern day controller handy or on standby. So I try to switch things up and go old school by using original hardware, the official N64 controller via an adapter that works on PC. Spoiler alert, it was a waste of time. Even though Android was able to detect the adapter being connected to the Raspberry Pi 5, neither Mupen64 or RetroArch was having it, so it was a colossal failure. So much for wishful thinking. At the end of the day, if you don't want to buy Analog 3D, it's not the end of the world. There's all sorts of ways you can still play N64 in 2026, whether that be original hardware or through software emulation or even by way of FPGAs such as the Mister. My solution to spec out my Raspberry Pi 5 isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea since everything is getting more expensive, but in a worst case scenario, if you really wanted to play N64, a more affordable option could be to silo APKs such as Mupen64 or RetroArch onto an Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K Max, the 16GB version, so don't forget that since the OS on it is Fire OS 8, which happens to be a fork of Android 11. All in all, just do whatever fits your budget while attaining the results you're looking for. One more thing, did you guys get the memo? I hear Nintendo 3DS's going rate is currently at a premium. Well, I got mine, so I hope you got yours. And for good measure, I also got myself the Nintendo DS as well, so I came prepared. So, as I wrap up this video, feel free to let me know in the comments what were your thoughts about the presentation I gave. If you're interested in this type of content as it relates to tinkering with single board computers, specifically turning a Raspberry Pi 5 into a 4K TV media device, hit the subscribe button down below and click the bell icon to turn on all of your notifications so you don't miss a thing. And also, if you made it this far into the video, I want to sincerely thank you for watching. So until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Again, this is Frank Muller signing out. Holla at me.